all about weather for liveweatherblogs.com, and well, pattern shifting, and it'll get interesting here now, going into next week to see exactly how the new pattern unfolds. Right now, I kind of looking at like a 50-50 uh, going either way here of exactly what's going to unfold, whether it's storms coming up and bringing too much warmth, or it's a storm that comes along the coast here, and this cold air that's sitting back here is meeting up with these storms. And I'm kind of leaning on the side of, okay, probably starting tomorrow and through about Tuesday and Wednesday, Thursday, the transition to the split flow pattern takes place, and then as these storms go by and you lay your tracks down here along the coast, maybe by next weekend, February 8th, 9th, we could be looking at a significant snowstorm across the mid-Atlantic. I don't think it's coming Monday, and I certainly don't think it's coming on Wednesday and the Thursday of next week, and I'll explain my reasonings in a moment. But in any case, 16 degrees here right now in my backyard with about a 6.5-inch snowpack still in media. 16 degrees, and you can see where the cold air is banked in on the side of the Appalachians, but already you can see the change in the pattern coming. It's 30 degrees now in Pittsburgh, and you can see this tongue of warm air is coming up here as a cold front lies right about here. Week one, this cold air is going to try to follow behind it, but then go back up into Canada. While it is 9 and 2 degrees below zero out here in the upper Midwest and 7, the cold air is starting to take a different trajectory off in this direction now. And when that happens, the southeast ridge is going to start popping, and that's when the warmth is going to start to be allowed to come up through the east coast here, especially this weekend. Super Bowl weekend looks fantastic with temperatures, and you can't rule out a shower as the next front comes near. But temperatures in the mid-50s very well could be possible as the warmth that's sitting down here in Dallas kind of gets squeezed up to the northeast as this cold air dumps into the Rockies here coming up this weekend. Alright, let's enough about the temperatures. Oh, by the way, we always like to look up north to see what's going on up north of the temperatures. And, geez, 37 degrees up here, way up here in the north country of Alaska. So what you got happening here is the big ridge that was sitting here is kind of retrograded a little bit to the west, and now the warmth is going up this way. The cold in Canada, we'll show you that in a moment, certainly has relaxed quite a bit, and this is where I've been looking for the cold air here. Just a couple of days ago, 30, 40, 27, 29 degrees below zero was all very common up here. Now we're looking in the single digits below zero, but right now you can see there's a little tongue of 27 degrees below zero. Maybe the cold air is starting to make a little bit of a comeback, but AO is showing a positive trend, and this is the result. Things are starting to warm up, kind of, if you would, averaging out, kind of cold air moving off to the west, cold air moving off to the east, kind of a reloading of the pattern, if you would, because it was so warm out here. Now let's take a look at the water vapor map. I'd like to go to the National Weather Service one, the one on ham weather seemed to be working very well. What you got going on here is you can clearly see here's a subtropical jet here coming across Florida. Friend Ron down there in Cape Coral has been texting me a few times. A lot of fog and drizzle, mist, very wet, and the fog is certainly a byproduct of latent heat starting to develop, and a lot of moisture along the subtropical jet. Plenty of rain down here in South Florida and Central Florida. All this heading up the coast, but you can see, you can get up a little low, upper low here in the Gulf, moving out. But as you can see, this is one of the ingredients for what could be a potential big snowstorm next weekend here in the east. Subtropical jet pulling up. This part of the subtropical jet will lift out, and then here's a new next piece of the subtropical jet coming in off the Pacific. Up here you got the Arctic jet, polar jet if you would, diving down like this now, setting up a storm track up in here. And once we get things going here later next week, the subtropical jet will be lying down here where you want it to be, coming up the east coast. The northern part of the jet, which is going to be supplying the cold air is going to start diving down in here and getting here. When that happens, the ridge will start popping off the east coast. Warming will take place. The storm Monday, probably a light event, probably just kind of scooting by when this piece here comes flying. Kind of just scoot by and move out. This is probably confined very southern sections of Pennsylvania and New Jersey and through the northern mid-Atlantic and out. It's not a big storm. It's a west to east mover with limited moisture, probably no more than 1 to 3, perhaps 2 to 4 inches of snow. That's out of here, and then we look for a storm to develop in this area, and then that's going to kind of, because of the polar vortex kind of rotating back like this and start diving the cold air down. That storm is going to be a western Pennsylvania Detroit storm, Lakes Cutter type of thing. Um, and and then when that storm goes through, we start looking toward the weekend. And speaking of the weekend, let's just take a look here. This is a GFS model here from today's 12Z run. And here it is Sunday. And you can see this is the 10-meter freezing line here. And it is cold enough for snow. Basically, Baltimore, Washington, Philadelphia points north. And these storms, they're going to be feeding off a lot of tropical latent heat starting to develop. The warming of the equatorial regions because of the sun angles getting higher. These storms are going to have a little bit more and more moisture as we go in time here. But there's also, unfortunately, if you're a snow lover, it's going to be very tight temperature gradients are going to start setting up. And depending on how strong or how these storms develop, really tap into that. And unfortunately, along the coastal sections, it's either you hate it or you love it, because if it pumps up and the cold air is in place, you're going to get blasted with 12 to 18, 12 to 24 inches of snow. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but the potential sure is there for something big coming up next weekend. The event Wednesday, Thursday, while it may start off as snow, probably quickly changes to rain, and depending, I don't even know how much ice we're going to see. It might just be a snow to rain type of event with not much mixing in between because of the temperatures that are coming in this weekend. So that will help save us with any icing problems, I think. So let me just go. I want to go to my blog, Winter Going Backwards. The water vapor pattern developing here. Here's one part of the jet, another part coming down here. Here's a subtropical jet here, another subtropical jet here. Things are starting to come together for a split flow developing. Any of these storms that come along, 2 to 2.5 inches of QPF could fall, and if that's snow, that's a lot of snow. These storms that are coming are going to be wet storms in nature. They are not going to be high ratio snows for the most part, unless a lot of Arctic air comes into them, but it looks to more or less the typical heavy wet snow that you're used to shoveling, back-breaking work coming up into February here. I think this is where we're heading, and this is going to be for next week. The southeast ridge is developing, and the strength of the southeast ridge is really going to determine what exactly goes on up here in the mid-Atlantic states. The southeast ridge gets too strong, well, you're going to get rain. It relaxes, you get a storm come up out of the Gulf, comes in the battle zone, heavy snows. So just have to wait and see, but I think the best potential for this is probably February 8th and 9th. That's all I have for tonight. Stay tuned, because things could get kind of wild while weather may be on the way. Talk to you later.